And we are live, coming to you from beautiful downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire. On this chilly Tuesday morning, the 6th of December, in the year of our Lord 2022. It's still a little dark out, and my webcam won't quite cooperate. Yes, I'm on the desktop computer. I need to move some furniture around and fix the lighting. But don't worry, the sun's coming up. It will get brighter. Sorry about that. It's morning. So I cough. Anyway, today is election day in Georgia for the runoff between two candidates for Senate. Warnock and, oh, come on, the football guy, Herschel Walker. Warnock's been a senator for 1 year. They call him the incumbent, but how'd he get there for just 1 year before an election when the term for a senator is 6 years? He must have been appointed when someone else died or resigned. So he was not elected the first time. Herschel Walker, there's some dirt seeming to stick with him. Warnock apparently has some problems too. We don't know who will win or whether it will be good for Georgia, for the Senate, for our country. But we'll find out who won eventually. I remember in 1964, Goldwater versus LBJ, they didn't use computers. They had paper ballots counted by hand, and we knew that night, the night of election day, who had won. Goldwater conceded. LBJ celebrated. Lyndon Baines Johnson. Hello, Jan. Oh, wow, it's the wee hours for Jan in Tasmania. I can almost see my keyboard to type a comment. I'm waiting for the sunshine to come in, but it's overcast and even a little foggy, so we'll see how this goes. I'm planning to move the furniture around, make the lighting a little more practical. What the heck is that? There's a blue streak on my screen. Oh, that's my coffee mug. Things look weird. Okay. Here we go. Although the blue streak was kind of cute. I'm sitting off to one side because of the glare from my floor lamp. Lyndon Baines Johnson, elected in 64 and refused to run again in 68, was one of our worst presidents. He had been governor of Texas. Legend has it that he took his campaign executives to a graveyard and said, I want every one of these people to vote for me. Dead people. He was known by people who knew him personally as a very cruel man with no manners. They say that when his aides came to brief him or be briefed by him, he would be sitting on the toilet with his pants down, taking a dump. Nice guy. Back then, mostly the left, but people on all sides of politics marched in the streets chanting, Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids have you killed today because of the Vietnam War and the military draft? When I was about 20 years old and I heard that they were going to start drafting women, I signed up to become a preacher so that if I did get drafted, I could just counsel people and not shoot people. Hi, Witta. Well, you guys said that you missed the morning chat, so I thought I'd try a morning chat. And I'm on the desktop computer, not the laptop. Seems to be working wonderfully. The moving up at the top of the screen is my ceiling fan. Oh, come on, camera, sit still. Anyway, it's a little chilly, even with the heater going full blast. It's been in the 30s at night, around 50 during the day, but not all day. It gets up to 50 around 2 in the afternoon and then starts getting colder again. No snow yet, just freezing rain, which I consider much worse than snow, but that's because I don't drive. When there's snow, you have to chain up your car. Or what some people up here do, they get snow tires. They have little spikes. Usually works in most circumstances, especially if you have a Subaru. For some reason, the Subaru vehicles work best in the snow and the ice and even the rain. But there are some problems with the Subaru dealers. But that's just gossip, so I can't really say that it's true. But some people go all the way to Riverside, an extra 20 or 30 miles down there, because they don't like the dealer in San Bernardino. They keep promising us snow, the weather service, and then, like the day of, they'll say, whoops, wait a few more days, then we'll get snow. And when that day comes, whoops, just rain, no snow. But the ski resorts up a little higher on the mountain do have snow, around 6 to 7,000 feet. I'm around 5,000. And since I'm in a depression, a sort of valley on top of the mountain, I'm probably more like 4,500. So, yes, when I go up to a ski resort, I notice the altitude, but I'm not bothered the way people from the flatland are. Let me get up and move that lamp a little. It's bugging me. Uh, oh, that's why it's where it is. I see. Well, I'll have to move it this way then. I wanted to move it the other way, but that won't work. See, oh, now the window. That can't be the window. That's the lamp. Let's move it some more. Oh, I see what happened. Come on, guys. Give me my lamp. Give me, evil thing. There is a heavy box on top of the cord. Let's see if that's better. Yes, it's much better. Of course, the window and the door have glare, but I'm sitting in front of them, sort of. Now, other way. Yeah, I'm going to have to put a better curtain on that window. Let's see. Yeah, the lamp does kind of look like the sun. Because it's close by. And don't tell anybody, that's my last 60-watt bulb from before the, oh, that is, yeah, from before the changeover. I've been using up the leftovers. And every time one burns out, I replace it with the energy efficient bulb because that's all you can get in this state, California. Anyway, don't want to waste money by throwing out perfectly good light bulbs. Oh, yeah, California has gone nuts. California has at least as much oil as Texas, but we're not allowed to drill it. And the way the regulations are, when we do have oil to be refined, it's cheaper to ship it to another state to be refined and shipped back than it is to refine it here. I remember on long road trips to see our grandparents, when we went by Venice, we would see the refineries. They often had flames at the top of the tower. You don't really see that anymore. And in the Baldwin Hills, I used to play in the Baldwin Hills in Culver City. There was so much oil underground that it was seeping out. You didn't really have to pump it. You'd find tar on the ground. Tar is thick, sticky oil. In Europe, I think they call it asphalt. But here, when we mix the tar with gravel, we call that asphalt. Oh boy. I'm still searching for some of my books. my book about horror movies, big old beat up, big paperback, bigger than your standard sheet of typing paper, but full of pictures. Can't find it. Can't find my Nero Wolf cookbook. It's been 2.5 years, and some of my books are still missing. I finally found my nail clippers. Well, one of them, the big one for toenails, the helpful lady who moved it couldn't tell me where it was. I finally found it in the medicine cabinet under a pile of tubes of toothpaste and Fixodent and stuff. She couldn't possibly just leave it where I had it, where I could just grab it when I wanted it. And she couldn't remember where she put it. If you can't remember where you put somebody else's stuff, don't move it in the first place. I found the lid to my little Tupperware cup that I used to keep my dentures in. Apparently, it had fallen behind the shelf in my bathroom, a little shelf thing that sits on the floor. She must have knocked it down or dropped it when she picked up my dentures to bring them to me, because I was, out with a broken hip and I didn't have my dentures with me and just couldn't be bothered to pull out the shelf and find the lid. So I ended up throwing out the Tupperware cup and getting a new cup for my dentures. I've had to buy all sorts of things that I already own. And every time something new turns up, I get all angry again. I'm tired of being angry. I still haven't brought my stereo equipment back into the house from the shed where she shoved it instead of keeping her hands off my things and letting me decide what to do with them. Oh, yeah, California, by the way, is very oil rich. But just like these other helpful people, our state government thinks that they know better than we do what to do with our things in our state. And the cost of living here has gotten so high that people are fleeing to other states. It isn't just taxes. Some states have amazing taxes, but they don't have the high cost of living, which is mostly due to regulations. For example, even though my kitchen was remodeled thanks to some truly helpful people, I paid for some of the stuff, but they donated a lot in addition to their time and effort. I couldn't get a permit to make jam at home and sell it. Now I found out why those who do have approved kitchens sell their jam for so much. It's like $16 for an 8-ounce jar. Sometimes you get 12 ounces. They have all these fees they have to pay. Your permit is good for 1 year, and then you have to apply again and pay again. And there's all these stupid regulations. Oh, hi, Howard. And once in a while, one of these home cooks is successful enough to hire a helper, but that's rare. our lady with the little cupcake shop finally got her home kitchen approved so she could cut expenses by no longer having to pay rent on a little hole in the wall shop. And she has such a good reputation for her cakes and cupcakes and cookies that she has plenty of business, mostly catering, like a birthday party or a community event. But me, there's nothing I can do or afford to do about my kitchen that would get me a permit. However, I can still make jam and give it away. Of course, with my broken back, I don't do that too often because standing at the stove and stirring the pot for a total of 10 minutes minimum, sometimes 15, just about kills me. But I get um, all kinds of gratitude, and some people insist on donating when I give them jam. Now, our local post office is my number one place for giving jam because we're all on post office boxes. We get one little teeny box for free because they don't come to the house. And there are plenty of houses on this mountain where I would not want to come out every day in a mail truck and try to find them and go up the hill and around the bend and so forth. And often they have driveways that are almost vertical. When I did Meals on Wheels, I used to deliver Meals on Wheels. There were some houses where I parked down below and walked up with their meals because it was too difficult to get the car up their driveway. Anyway, when I give them jam for their lunchroom at the post office, they like me. My mail doesn't get lost. They don't send it back just because they don't know the sender didn't write the box number on it. However, UPS and FedEx do come to the house, and so does the Schwann's truck. And I've decided to go ahead and order a ham for this Christmas. Ordinarily, it's too expensive coming off the Schwann's truck, but they've lowered the price with a special coupon. And I checked the prices of ham at the grocery store, and it's kind of the same, except Schwann's brings it to my door, and I don't get out much. I am enjoying Great Granny's rocking chair, but my back is still a serious problem. It takes, they tell me, at least 2 years for it to heal, if it's going to heal. Let's see. Howard says Sean's had a great bagel dog. He loves and misses them. Well, they have, I think they have them, but they're seasonal. Like they'll have them around the 4th of July. I know they do have mini corn dogs, hot dogs wrapped in breading of some kind. Um, in my adventures in cooking, I've been watching a YouTube channel called Smokin' and Grillin' with A.B. The letter A, the letter B. The guy is awesome. I think he's in California, but he's Southern, and he has these amazing recipes. You ought to check him out. Oh, the ice cream is, get this, the ice cream is better than Thrifty. It's Rite Aid now. Rite Aid bought Thrifty. I used to love going to Thrifty drugstore. They actually had everything. I even bought clothing there. And their ice cream, oh, couldn't leave the store without an ice cream cone. But Schwann's actually is better. They were originally an ice cream truck. Sorry. They started out just selling ice cream from their trucks. Oh, and I really miss the ice cream trucks. Back in the 80s, I had a house in Orange County, city of Orange, near Chapman College, where I was a student. And I used to, tell the ice cream guy on the truck, keep the change. And I'd buy ice cream for me and for the neighborhood kids. Well, one day I was short about $1 after, the kids got their ice creams. And the guy said, "That's okay. You always tip me. Have a great day." So I got my ice cream even though I was out of money. What I really miss is the 50/50 bars. Sometimes Schwann's has them. They call them something else. But it's a wooden stick with vanilla ice cream covered with orange popsicle. Sometimes they come in a cherry flavor, but I like the orange. And the Good Humor Man called them 50/50 bars. Half ice cream, half popsicle. There is so much going on in this world. Twitter is entertaining lately. Oh, creamsicles. Thank you, Howard. I think that is what Schwann's calls them. They don't always have them, but in the summer they do. I forget what they're called, but I got the Schwann's copycat of a Dove bar. It's on a little wooden stick, about the size of my thumb, instead of the long skinny one. But it's vanilla ice cream covered in chocolate. Oh, they're awesome. That's making me hungry. But they finally listened to consumers and started offering a pint size ice cream. I can't fit very much in my freezer, and even a half gallon takes up a lot of space because I have a tiny freezer in my energy efficient refrigerator. Oh well. Edison Company gave it to me for free, so I shouldn't complain too much. But it's a few years old, and I think it's Frigidaire, which is probably the most reliable as long as you don't have bells and whistles, and it doesn't even hook up to the internet. Yay. I don't want the internet knowing how often I open the door and stare inside. Anyway, the pint size is about, looks like a Ben and Jerry's container. You know, it's round and small. And I got this caramel pecan ice cream, and the reviews on Schwann's are, I think they're kind of misguided. I can't find the caramel. Well, the caramel is in thin strips, but you get a bite of caramel in every bite of ice cream. And they were generous with the pecans, and it's awesome. I ate the whole thing. Well, in 3 sittings, not one, but even so. Oh, and I learned a trick. It helps to reduce the ice crystals that tend to form in your ice cream in the freezer after you've scooped out some of it. You take your plastic wrap and push it down onto the surface of the ice cream and then put the lid on. And it doesn't totally eliminate ice crystals, but it does reduce them to a manageable amount. Okay, Twitter's a mess. There's this election, the voting day in Georgia. The IRS is getting a whole bunch of new agents. Why? It reminds me of Richard II, King of England. He was basically a boy when he became king. The people in line ahead of him died in various ways. He ended up imprisoned and eventually starved to death because he kept increasing taxes to support his lavish lifestyle. I learned that on Tasting History with Max Miller. Tasting History is a really fun cooking site. I doubt that I would make the things he cooks, but I really enjoy his videos on YouTube. He takes very old recipes, some from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and all the way up through the 1800s, but usually much older than that, and cooks them and tastes them and tells you a little bit about the history of that particular food. I love it. But for food I might actually cook, it's smoking and grilling with AB. So I'll type that in too. Smoking, not smoking. Oh, come on, let's put the cursor in the slot. Okay. SMOKIN apostrophe and grilling with AB. I'm hoping to get a new stove so I can do some cooking videos. The one I've got is a mess. The electric pilots don't work. So I light the stove with a match or my cigarette lighter, and the oven won't work at all because it won't turn on the gas when the pilot doesn't work. So, sorry, it's morning. What else can we talk about? I'm just amazed that the internet is working. I've been complaining to Verizon on Twitter. Wita confirmed for me that it's Verizon that throttles my service, not necessarily YouTube, although I have my suspicions. Of course, Verizon said, "Oh, we don't throttle your service. We prioritize." Well, it's the same thing when I can't even open an email. Anyway, I got tired of their runaround. Oh, and they said, "This is not the experience we want customers to enjoy." No kidding. I'm waiting to hear about Frontier and their um what do they call it? Where is that ad? I don't know. The the where they send light through a glass cable. I don't know. Fiber optics. I'm waiting for someone else to try it first. I have heard that their advertised prices are deceptive. And I know you have to pay for installation. They actually bring a cable to your house and you have to have this box, kind of like cable internet, except it's, and you get speeds up to 500 M or G or whatever. I think M. Well, up to. It can be as low as a simple 500, just 500, not 500 M. So I'm waiting to hear from someone who's tried it because I can't afford to get stuck in a contract that doesn't give me good service and costs me money every month. We'll see. I do know that people with Spectrum cable have it worse than I do because they're lower priority. They use Verizon service, but they have lower priority than Verizon customers. And of course, the government keeps promising to crack down on these services, but they never do. They just talk a good game. After all, they want those campaign contributions to keep coming in. Oh, and all these people who have lied to Congress, demonstrably lied. The Congress cannot press criminal charges. They can't even impose civil fines. And the Department of Justice refuses to pursue these people who committed perjury by lying to Congress while under oath. Does anybody here actually like Dr. Fauci? Well, he's so old that there's no point in pursuing him. He would be total. Well, he's retiring anyway, and he'll be totally out of the loop long before any case got to court. But what about these other people? I'm not naming names. I might get censored. Wita doesn't like Dr. Fauci. They just, it's usually Fox News on YouTube. They just play one clip after another of Dr. Fauci making announcements to the American public. Wear a mask. Oh, masks don't work. Oh, wear two masks. If you get the shot, you won't get COVID and you won't spread COVID. Okay, that's what he said. Is it true? And we did not fund that research. Oh, no, you gave the money to a third party to fund it. Well, that isn't exactly a lie, but it's obfuscation. I had to look up that word and make sure I'm using it right. AIDS. I remember when the AIDS epidemic was really wild and rampant. The conspiracy theory of that time was that the virus they detected had nothing to do with AIDS. They pointed out, for example, that the Africans who were dying with similar symptoms were actually victims of starvation. There were food shortages in parts of Africa. And actually, the virus was found by a researcher whose name I've forgotten, but the guy who's credited with it, according to conspiracy theory, stole it from the original guy. And because he had connections, he got the credit. Now, I think he even got a Nobel Prize. And by the way, it is not a Nobel Prize, it's Nobel, after Alfred Nobel, the inventor of dynamite. Created weapons of war and left his fortune to fund a peace prize. I guess he had a conscience. Was it dynamite he invented or was it TNT? Oh well, they had black powder bombs long before he came along. He just made the bombs better. A smaller bomb could cause more damage. Well, now the thing is Mpox. We can't call it a monkey because that would insult monkeys, I guess. But we're stuck with chicken pox. We can insult chickens. I don't know. Well, fortunately, it isn't running rampant, but I'm just waiting for the next epidemic. The flu is probably going to be especially bad this year because for 2 years we were not exposed to a lot of viruses, so we had no opportunity to develop immunity. Even natural immunity from exposure to germs does expire. Case in point, when I was a child, I don't think we had vaccines. I got measles, mumps, chickenpox, norovirus, flu, and German measles, but a few years back, I was in close quarters with a woman who gleefully declared, "I got my shots yesterday for the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella." Well, I came down with the measles. Don't know which one, but I had to quarantine myself. I don't mind quarantine. I'm a hermit. I don't socialize much. What happened to the comment I read about AIDS has disappeared? Well, AIDS. Oh, there it is. Here. I think Dr. Fauci might have good intentions, but you know what the road to hell is paved with. When I was studying science for pre-medicine, in other words, the first 4 years of your education, medical, um, the professor pointed out that scientists will do things because they can, and they often balance the need to know a little heavier than the hazard to the public. Well, I think that's true. Some scientists have created a hybrid, what is it, mouse and human? Others have created an artificial human embryo. I guess it doesn't have a brain or doesn't have a head. It's really sickening. Now Witta has brought up Malthus. Thomas Malthus. The Malthusian doctrine is that organisms that reproduce too much and too often will outgrow their food supply. And then there'll be a huge die off from starvation. Sorry, I can't turn off the sound on the apps on my phone because when I did that, it didn't ring and I missed important calls. Somebody needs to redesign cell phones so that they'll still ring when your notifications don't interrupt your YouTube video. If I mute it for my video, I'll forget to unmute it afterward. Okay, anyway, they always like to cite the lemmings. Once a year, thousands of lemmings jump off the cliff into the sea and drown, and the theory is it's because there isn't enough food. Well, I don't know about that. There's something weird about that. Little rodents just jumping off the cliff into the sea. I don't get it. It's weird. But as far as humans are concerned, we already have enough food for everybody in the world. Oh, Witta says the lemmings don't actually do that, but I saw a film of it. They must have done it once. Maybe they learned. Anyway, we have enough food for everybody in the world. What we don't have is money to buy the food. Now, our stupid federal government has turned to just sending cash to these poor countries where people are in poverty and don't have enough food. And of course, the cash is almost never used to buy food for the people. It just enriches the people who are in power. But when there's a disaster, they'll drop big wooden crates full of food from a helicopter. And what happens then is the strong men of the village get all the food. So it still isn't quite distributed fairly. There are some nonprofits that actually go there with a truck and hand out food to individual people. That's an improvement. But quite often our disaster relief is such a joke. In particular, people in coastal regions of Southeast Asia, every time there's a big storm, their homes are washed away. So, what do the relief agencies do? They rebuild the same kind of homes in the same locations because every time there's a disaster, they get all kinds of donations from people who feel sorry for the people who lost their homes. It's a vicious cycle. So lemmings don't actually jump off the cliff into the sea? Well, they did once because I saw a film of it. I think it was either Disney or Wild Kingdom back in the 60s. They must have done it once. And one theory was that there used to be land there, not ocean, and they forgot. Okay, Witta says they chased them off. Whom did they chase off? The lemmings? Oh, the people who made the film. Oh, it was a documentary. See, I'm a little vague on who made the film because they showed it to us in elementary school, or if you prefer, grammar school. The lemmings thing is easy to look up on Google. Okay, I'll do that when after I sign off. But Thomas Malthus, his theory was that a population will outgrow the food supply and die off through starvation, and that's going to happen to us because we have 1 or 2 billion people in the world. Oh, what do we have now? We've just reached 8 billion. And yes, there are poor people in poor countries, although that's debatable as to whether the country is really poor, but the people are, who are food challenged. They get just enough to eat, but not really. And the people who die off are the very old and the very young. Well, some conspiracy theorists claim that that's going to happen to us in the United States within a few months. But they're selling emergency food supplies, so I'm not sure how much I trust them. I have some dried beans and some rice and some pasta, but I make sure I have a few extra cans of food. I have spam. I happen to like fried spam, but it isn't healthy really to eat it all the time. I have some of my protein shakes, the Ensure Plus chocolate. And with my canned food, I buy one extra can of something I actually eat. I don't trust some emergency food supply. For one thing, for most of these things, you have to have water. And water might be a real problem, especially in California, where the real problem is water management, not an actual shortage. The state, for example, has been pumping out groundwater for cities to the point where farmers' wells have gone dry, and they were supposed to be saved by the California Aqueduct, but uh, not the legislators, not elected people, some bureaucrats for the environment shut off the water to the aqueduct. Northern California floods like crazy when they get a good rainstorm because they don't manage their water well. And it was relieving the flooding problem when they let water flow into the aqueduct instead of going out to the ocean and taking your house with it. But some little fish that's an invasive species and smaller than my thumb was endangered. Well, what they've done to save this stupid, what do they call it? I've forgotten what they call it now. A stupid little fish that's an invasive species. It's actually harming the trout and salmon. Okay, let's see. WITA says an investigation by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation found that the lemmings were pushed off the cliff by the camera crew from a truck. Oh, they created a stampede to make them. That is, they ought to be in prison. Animal cruelty and a few other things. Poor lemmings. Oh, wow. You learn something new every day. The problem with environmentalism is that most of the regulations that are imposed on us are actually bad for the environment, especially when it comes to small farmers. They know what they're doing. Most of them have worked their farms for generations. But some bureaucrat sitting at a desk who doesn't know anything about farming imposes a regulation that actually harms the environment, requires all kinds of Monsanto chemicals, Monsanton, of course, uh, and now they're restricting the amount of fertilizer a farmer can use and making it so expensive that the restriction is unnecessary. I do have a workaround for my home garden. I get the liquid fish fertilizer, but apparently the government won't let farmers use it. Organic, natural things really appeal to me, even though I'm not a fanatic about it. The thing is, um, you start with the fish fertilizer, it encourages the growth of leaves, just like when the Native Americans would bury a fish and then plant their corn, beans, and squash on top of it. But it does not promote the growth of flowers or fruit, so you need to switch to something else when it's time for flowers and fruit. And I've got that too. And since my soil tends to be a little acid, I sprinkle in some lime. But you should test your soil before doing that. You might not need it, it might be counterproductive. Ah, oh, you have an environmental science major in the house who's happy that I'm talking about this. Farming and water management. Yeah, our government has been going around destroying dams that actually work, but not destroying the old dams in dried up gulches where they are not needed and they're a hazard to both humans and wildlife. Our Big Bear Lake, way up higher than here, 8,000 feet approximately. It was created by a dam. There was a lake there, but it's mostly a man-made lake. Well, way down the mountain near somewhere near Oak Glen, but not in a straight line toward it. It's toward this other town. I think maybe Ukaipa. Anyway, there's another dam. Seven Oaks. It's in Seven Oaks, and it's the Seven Oaks Dam. Is there simply to catch overflow from the Big Bear Dam when we have heavy rains, and if we have an earthquake because we're right on the San Andreas, well, a branch of it, the San Jacinto Fault. If there's a big earthquake and the Big Bear Dam fails, the Seven Oaks Dam will catch at least most of the water so we won't have flooding down in San Bernardino, which happened once in the early 20th century and wiped out people's houses and so forth. So at least San Bernardino County has some brains intact, even though we are the most corrupt county in the nation. And this county is larger than some states in both area and population. But our county supervisors are not totally stupid. And they fixed our dam, the Lake Gregory Dam in Crestline. They only, let's see, they got started on it 20 years after the state of California ordered them to repair the dam because it was unsafe and likely to fail, especially in an earthquake. But even without an earthquake, they did repair our dam because we raised hell. They were going to just demolish the dam and we wouldn't have a lake. Well, this town is a summer resort. Tourists come here for the lake, trout fishing and kayaking and rowboats and like that. Apparently, they were hoping to import some kind of industry, factories. That's just not a good thing. I'll tell you how our economy is so structured for small mom and pop businesses. There used to be two McDonald's, one in Crestline and one in Blue Jay. McDonald's closed the one in Blue Jay. Not enough business. People prefer the mom and pop shops, the family owned restaurants. They have better food, for one thing. And we like to support locals. And we'll pay more for a hamburger that's actually good, tastes good, is good for you, etc., and isn't full of sugar. That's McDonald's real secret. They put sugar in everything. That's why it used to taste so good. I bought a Big Mac a few years ago, hadn't had one in several years and had a craving. I was so disappointed. It was not the Big Mac I remember. I kind of improved it by taking it home and adding more dressing, Thousand Island dressing to it, but the meat isn't the same. The buns are full of sugar. Thousand Island dressing is full of sugar. We love sugar. And by the way, if you think you're going to lose weight by going on a low fat diet, beware. It might work if you make your own food, but if you buy low fat food, they just make up for it by adding sugar. And that sugar might have long scientific names that you don't even recognize. If you do read the label. And it's pretty well established by recent research that eating fat doesn't make you fat. Eating sugar and other carbohydrates makes you fat. Fat is good for you in many ways. It contains nutrition that refined sugar does not. It has oils, of course, which are good for your joints and and your hormone production. And it has some minerals and vitamins. I'm talking animal fat. I cook with vegetable oil. I like to pop my popcorn in corn oil. And yes, I get a jar of Orville Redenbacher popcorn kernels and pop them in a pot on the stove. It's easy, at least for me. And then I melt some butter and I add butter and sea salt. And when I'm really, really ambitious, I'll make some caramel from brown sugar. But it's so much easier to get a jar of caramel ice cream topping and dip the popcorn in that. Um, Anyway, most things that require oil, I use either grapeseed oil because it's neutral, does not add to the flavor, and it can manage high heat, or the bacon fat that I've saved from when I made bacon. Oh, we call it bacon grease, but it's fat. Yeah, I spent one horrible summer in Napa, way up north near Sacramento, wine country, during a drought. But I was watching them work on the Second Street Bridge because every time we had a good winter rainstorm, the bridge washed out. And they were trying to strengthen the bridge so it would not wash out. But it didn't occur to them that they might do something to divert the water so it would fill Lake Berryessa, so we'd have drinking water, and the Second Street Bridge would not wash out. And of course, all that nice rainwater ended up in the Pacific Ocean. This camera thing is bugging me. No, then that would make too much sense. Napa has a river, but when there's a drought, you can't find it. When it rains like crazy, the river overflows. But they have some of the best farmland in the world. And near Sacramento, the Sacramento Delta is basically a swamp, but there are islands that farmers either lease or own, and they grow crops on those islands because they're surrounded by water. They don't have to worry about a water shortage. Farmers are amazing. They're smart people and inventive. I remember Phil telling me about Israel, how it's a desert, but they made it bloom early in Israel's history since 1947, 7 or 8, I forgot. They would go out at night with a cup of water and an eyedropper and put a drop of water on each little plant that was starting to poke up through the soil. Eyedroppers. At night, so it wouldn't evaporate in the heat of the day. Maybe they'd put 2 or 3 drops of water on it. That was inventive and smart. Well, hi, Viken. Yeah, you caught me about an hour, 13 minutes into the show. And I'm about to recycle some coffee, so hang on, I'll be right back. I think. My knees hurt from sitting. At least my back is behaving today. Okay. That goes right into a station that feeds water to San Bernardino. That station was getting right on the San Jacinto, San Jacinto. It's a major branch of the San Andreas. It runs basically Okay, I'm almost back. Ah, but my water's empty. Hang on. Gosh. Dum de dum de dum. Dum 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 dum. Dum de dum. Dum de dum de dum. Water. Okay. San Jacinto earthquake fault. California aqueduct. Well, down at the bottom of the mountain, there's this mountain range, there's a station, part of the California aqueduct, and that station feeds water to San Bernardino. Well, that station of the California aqueduct sits right on the San Jacinto earthquake fault, a major branch of the San Andreas. And we are well overdue for a major earthquake. Uh, Not good. The fault is actually at the base of the western side of these mountains. It crosses the 15 freeway, the one that goes from San Bernardino to Las Vegas. It kind of skirts around the western slopes of the San Bernardino Mountains. It's between Devore and the base of the mountains. Devore has this big amphitheater where there's all kinds of public shows, mostly music. Devore is right off the 15 freeway. Oh, and that's another thing. We had a major forest fire all over Southern California in 03. It entered Magic Mountain up on the Grapevine. Some people call it the Ridge Route. It used to be the Ridge Route, but now the southbound side is basically what was the Ridge Route, and the northbound side is the newer road, which we call the Grapevine because the town at the bottom of the north side is evil computer. A town called Grapevine has a big old gas station and little shops and stuff. Okay. It also went through the San Gabriel Mountains, places like Glendale and Pasadena. And of course, the San Bernardino Mountains had some fires. And they were caused by arson, and someone was arrested and convicted. But locals here are convinced that he was not the only one. He just got caught. Well, the reason that the fire off to the west of us, yeah, that's west, crossed the 15 freeway and came up the mountains was because Caltrans never clears the brush on the side of the freeway. Every time a car overheats and pulls off onto the shoulder, as you're supposed to do, there's a good chance that the brush will catch fire because Caltrans never does weed abatement. And yet our county code enforcement once cited me for a single blade of grass and said I had to remove the weeds with an S on the end. They even included a picture on their notice to me. So I put a little ruler, 12 inches, school ruler, next to the blade of grass, snapped a photo, and sent it to them. I also pointed out that that house, it was my son's house, is on a septic tank. We're required to grow plants on the leach field. Oh, I won't become crispy. I'm in town, not in the forest, even though I do have a few trees. But I'm right behind the gas station where the fire department gets their fuel. They're not going to let this area burn. Plus, as I said, I'm in town, not the forest. And I'm not on a slope. These lots are not exactly level, but they're flat. So I'm good. And frankly, if it got really bad, I could just walk down to the lake. The fire engines generally park in that area. So even if I didn't get to the lake, I'd get to the fire trucks. I'd be cool. Come on, you evil computer thingy mouse. Yeah, I'm good. And in an evacuation, they provide transportation for people who don't have cars. You just sign up with the local bus service and they'll get you out. I also have some good neighbors who would drive me out. But in 03, when things were really bad off, the only damage my house got was when it rained and one of my windows was open. That was on purpose. I left the little bathroom window open for my cats. I had 9 cats at the time and I could not take them with me. I did take my dog. But I knew that my house was not going to burn. And by the way, that was a different house. The one I lost in foreclosure, which is okay. I'm good in this house. I don't have to climb a bunch of steps to get to my door. It's flat. There's just one step up from my mud porch to my living room. One. That was a little bit of a problem when I had my broken hip and it was still healing, but I'm good. Anyway, don't seem to be in danger from flooding either. When we have a good strong rainstorm, sometimes a little water comes into my mud porch. The mud porch is like 2 feet square, tiny thing. Not a problem. I just shove a towel, a bath towel, up against the bottom of the door, and that stops it. Not a problem. My real problem is wind. It keeps blowing branches, small branches off the trees, and they pile up in the most inconvenient spots. But they aren't dangerous. One time, a huge, like 20-foot branch came off of an oak tree, and just the little twigs with the leaves touched the edge of my roof. It was 20 feet away, but it was 20 feet long. And amazingly, the tree survived. And some friends of mine said, "Oh, we'd like to have that wood for our fireplace." So I said, "Go ahead." The guy came out with a chainsaw and hacked up the 20-foot oak branch and hauled it away. He even took the twigs and leaves, and bagged them up for the trash. The post office is about half a mile away from me, but I haven't been able to walk well. First, because I broke my hip, and then because I broke my back. But I'm going to give it a try in about a week, and I'll get my walker. I have the sport model with handbrakes and everything. I'll get my walker and see if I can make it to the post office. Half a mile. I used to walk a mile to the grocery store, get groceries, and carry them home. And it really is uphill both ways. Well, it was then in that house. In this house, it doesn't look like a hill, but you really feel it coming home. You feel that it is a little bit uphill coming back. You don't see the hill because it's so flat. Well, here and there people do fix my house for me, Viken. It's all right. I fix some things myself. I was planning to paint my house and just do everything that I can reach. Fortunately, it's a single story, no upstairs to try to paint. First with a brush and then with a roller on a big long handle. But that didn't happen. I could very easily, use a paintbrush even with a broken hip or a broken back, but I couldn't lift a can of paint. That's a problem. I can probably do it now, but it has to wait for good, dry, sunny weather. I'm tired of having a yellow house. I'm going to paint it blue. I already have the paint because when I first bought this house, I bought all kinds of paint that never got used. The guys did the house yellow with blue trim, light blue, baby blue, sky blue, something like that. Because it just wanted to be Pennsylvania Dutch, but I didn't want to leave it white. The previous owners had just used primer, white primer, and it just didn't look right, so they painted it yellow over the primer. But I think I'll paint it blue over the yellow because I have so much blue paint left over. The main thing is I've got to get a new stove. I can't do cooking videos on a stove that doesn't really work. No oven. It won't, the oven doesn't work at all, and I have to light the burners with a match. That just won't do. How can I show you how to bake a cake when I have to carry the pan of cake batter out to the living room where I have an electric roaster that's really made for roasting your turkey? And some foods are just better baked in gas. I mean, I used to make a mean souffle, but it just doesn't come out right in the roaster. It needs to be in the oven. Yeah, it's basically a wooden house, vegan. I looked into buying this siding that's also insulation that you just glue on, but it's horridly expensive. Well, hi, Nick West. Nick. Oh, I mean, hi, not Jai. Oh, I'm an hour and a half into this. I recently watched a video of our our branch of the San Andreas, the San Jacinto Fault. Well, when there's an earthquake, even if it's way out in Los Angeles, 70 miles away, we feel it if it's a big one because our San Jacinto Fault kind of wiggles in sympathy. But the experts keep telling us that we're overdue for a big one on the San Jacinto Fault. Maybe the San Andreas too. But we're a major branch of it, or we're sitting next to it. It's right at the base of the mountain. But they also tell us that these mountains will be okay because they're sitting on continental shelf. Oh yeah, wooden houses fare very well especially if they're old. I was in a very old, like 1910 wood frame house in Orange during a major earthquake, and it kind of, wiggled, but it didn't even crack the plaster. And the house stood quite well. I had, when I first bought it, had the foundation. It sat on a concrete foundation, and the inspector said, "You've got this here, and we need to inject dynamite cement." Fortunately, I had the money to pay for the repair. So the foundation did well too. But it kind of reminds me of a really amazing dream I had once. It was part of a series of dreams. And in that dream, I was in Fontana with a group of evacuees from some disaster. And we camped inside the foundation where there used to be a house, and nothing was left but the concrete foundation and a fireplace, which was made of concrete, not bricks. And there was green grass growing up inside and outside this concrete foundation. That series of dreams I've always thought must be prophetic. Something exploded in the sky and there was driving rain, and we were walking, following the National Guard to get out of the danger area. And eventually, in the last installment of the dream that I remember, I climbed up into these mountains. The National Guard wanted to take us to a military base, which had an evacuation center, and I didn't want to do that, so I sneaked away and came up into the mountains. These very mountains where I live now. That dream kind of led me. I had always wanted to come live up here, but that really sparked the what do you call it? Motivation to get it done. Ooh, the sun has come up. I've got light all over the place. By the way, I'm in Great Granny's rocking chair. That's why I move forward and back a lot. It's good for my back. Okay, Beacon says, sounds like a wormwood asteroid strike dream or vision. Yeah, lots of fireball videos at the moment, too. Yeah, in the dreams, I didn't see any fireballs. It was just this big boom. And my family got separated, but I was still with one brother. Well, I was with both my brothers and my little sister at first, but one of my brothers disappeared, took off on his own, and then I don't know, we lost track of my little sister. Our parents were not with us. I don't know why not. So I continued the journey with just one brother. That might have been prophetic. I mean, at this point, my parents are both dead. My oldest brother is dead, and I'm really not in contact with my baby sister. I was 9 years old when she was born, so she's my baby sister. But I'm still in touch with the one brother who stayed with me during the dreams or visions. I don't know. Just don't know whether it was a metaphor or a real thing. But I'm happy in the mountains. And it's a small community where most of us know each other, even if we don't know names. You know, even if we don't hang out, we meet in town, at the post office, and in small shops. I'm getting really bad burping. Sorry. I must be hungry. I haven't had breakfast because I came on so early. I really do wish that the government regulators who are unelected bureaucrats sitting at desks would just leave us alone. We know better than they do what to do in our backyards, and that's especially true for the ones thousands of miles away, that way, east in Washington, D.C. They have no idea what life is like for ordinary people in California. Oh, sleep patterns. Well, I still fall asleep earlier than I like, which means I wake up earlier than I'd like. Oh, just checking something. But I'm getting 6 or 7 hours at least, and sometimes I sleep 8 or 10 hours. My bones are getting better. I just have to remind myself not to lift heavy things, and but to be active enough to promote healing without causing further damage. I can't wait till April. If there isn't too much rain in April, it's the best time to plant things up here. We have a short season, so we like to plant as early as possible. I want my tomatoes pretty much failed this year. I'm not sure why, but everybody had that problem. Fruit trees didn't bloom, so there was no fruit. Tomatoes just didn't put out fruit soon enough. I have 2 tomato plants where here in December the tomatoes on them are still green and the plants are dead from cold. It was weird. My apple tree took the year off. The apple tree is at least 100 years old. It's usually covered with apples. Don't know what happened. I don't even have very many acorns. We do have a few squirrels, so maybe that's part of the reason, but last year there were so many acorns it was like walking on ball bearings. I had to rake them up and get rid of them so I could walk around my garden. And then nothing grew. This year, nothing. And I can usually count on tomatoes. They're easy. Part of the thing was it kept raining, and when they get too much water, they don't make fruit, and the flowers they have will fall off instead of turning into nice, juicy tomatoes. Yeah. It's really, really, really weird. So I'm hoping for a better garden this year. I have to use drastic measures to stop gophers from eating the roots of trees and bushes, and other measures to stop the raccoons from digging in my garden for worms and grubs because they destroy the plants while they're at it. And then there's the insect pests, and the roses keep passing rust and something else to other plants. Oh, and year before last, for the first time ever up here on the mountain, I had hornworms, also known as tomato worms, on my tomato plants. I had 2 of them, one on each of my best tomato plants. I used to see them all the time down the hill, but that was the first time I had them up here on the mountain. Okay, Feakin says Gavin. Oh, yeah, Governor Badsome calls himself Newsom. He's just, he thinks he's going to run for president. And it has worked in the past because when a state has a particularly bad governor, they're happy to send him to Washington, D.C. and get him out of our state. as much as people love Ronald Reagan and he did some good, he was terrible for California. And the Reaganomics closed in just as I was getting my bachelor's degree in public relations. So, which jobs were cut the most drastically under Reaganomics? Public relations. I don't think Newsom has much of a chance. I can't believe he got reelected as governor after that stunt he pulled, eating out with a dozen of his closest friends at a fancy French restaurant that he had shut down, but he ordered them to open up for him while the rest of us had to settle for takeout because our restaurants were closed. You know, 2 weeks to stop the surge, take the pressure off the hospitals, has been 2 years of living hell. And Newsom is more to blame than anyone over in DC. When they tell him to jump, he says, "How high?" And then he says, "Never mind, I'll just go jump till my head hits the ceiling." Whatever restrictions there are nationwide, California doubles down. I still have to wear a mask in any medical building, whether it's the doctor, the hospital, or a lab where they're doing tests. And I don't really mind, but I do think it's ridiculous. And everybody who works there has to be masked up. And vaccinated. But President Biden said the pandemic is over. And yet, at least for a while in the restaurants here, we had to wear masks when we went there to eat. The drill was you take your mask down, put the food in your mouth, and put the mask back up. It's hard to enjoy dinner that way. And yes, COVID was horrible, and it killed people. But there is a limit to what you can do and what will work. And I hope Joe Biden was right and it is over. But we're likely to have a terrible flu epidemic because nobody has been exposed to those viruses enough to get some immunity built up. I don't worry for myself. I had the flu in 1969 and in 2019, or almost into 2020, around Christmas or New Year's. I can handle having the flu once every 50 years. And who knows, maybe the flu I had in 2020 was COVID. We didn't know about it yet, so maybe. I didn't need it to see the doctor. I was just miserable at home for about a week with a fever and all that stuff. Hi, Oswald. I'm getting ready to wind down and leave. Yeah, I decided that since Verizon tends to shut my internet down around 8 or 9 in the morning, I'd better start earlier. It's 8:33 now, so they'll probably shut me down pretty soon because they're prioritizing. They don't call it throttling, but it is. Hi, Jorge. Favorite healing crystal? Moonstone. It's my real birthstone, not that stupid green thing that cheap jewelry makers have been using because it's cheaper than. My real birthstones are pearl and moonstone. I'm not into pearls, but I do like moonstone, and I have one. I have several, but one favorite. Oswald says supposedly, if you put crystals under your pillow while sleeping, your dreams will be more vivid or come back if you have trouble dreaming. I have no trouble dreaming. It's just that most of my dreams are boring procedurals, like I'm working in an office and there's all these filing cabinets, or the phone is ringing, or my coworkers want to go to lunch. Oswald might try the healing crystals under the pillow. Well, I have to sleep elevated, so the crystals would fall down. I'd be sitting on them. I do definitely have a hiatal hernia, and I'm still waiting for the results of the biopsy on my stomach. But I imagine that if they did detect something terrible like cancer, they would have told me by now. So I'm not worried. But I still have to get the colonoscopy, and I suspect they might find something there. Sometimes I think I might have parasites. I used to eat raw or undercooked fish long time ago. But they didn't appear to have parasites in them. I went to a very nice sushi restaurant. I liked the ones that were cooked. Most of the sushi is actually cooked or all veggies. There was one they called a spider roll, and it had shrimp inside the rice and nori, and the best part of it was the sauce. And of course, nobody would tell you what was in the sauce. But it was a high-end restaurant where the owner went down to the pier every day to buy fresh seafood, and she made her own sauces from scratch. She was a Japanese lady from Taiwan. I tried CBD oil for my back. It really didn't do much. I get better results from Bengay. But I had to stop the Bengay for a while because my skin was getting too sensitive to it. Yeah, we're headed up to the 2 hour mark, so I'm definitely going to need to sign off soon. But the CBD oil is terribly expensive. They even have it at our grocery store now. Various oils, creams, etc. Doesn't get you high, which is fine with me. I don't need drugs to get high. I meditate, but if it worked, I would use it, but it just doesn't do much. It's getting chilly in here again. Is there a draft? Everything's shut. I guess, oh, my heating pad. It's on a stupid timer. It turned off. Okay, that's better. I'm not running the electric fan heater because it makes too much noise when I'm on live. Anyway, we're almost at the 2 hour mark, and I've run out of things to say today. But I think mornings will work if I just come on a little earlier and use the desktop instead of the laptop. It seems to be working fine, so let's do my sign off. Thank you all for listening, NING, and have a great day. No typos. I like this keyboard. Love and cats to all of you. Cats are amazing, but I still want a dog. My Roddy made it to about 15 or 14 or 15, which is pretty good for a Rottweiler, even though he was part traveling salesman, probably black lab. The father looked like a Rottweiler, but not quite. Anyway, love you all. Take care and have a great day, week, month, and year. It's almost time for a new one, and I look forward with some trepidation, but hey, we're still here. Bye.